Episode number 9,
Hello.
almost 10. We're here. SIP happens. Oh my goodness, we have a lot to talk about. I feel like we have teased this in our past episodes. I want to preface this episode by saying that we are going to go in depth on pregnancy loss, infertility, IVF. So if that is something that is a topic that is sensitive to you, feel free to skip this episode. Heads up.
Or if it's a topic that you have questions on or want to feel seen, you've come to the right place.
Yeah, dive in with us. We love talking about it. The good, the bad, the ugly. And this episode in particular comes with some good, which is that I am pregnant and so
Mhm.
excited. Spencer and I are thrilled to
Yay.
be welcoming number 3
You don't
later
sound
this year.
excited at all. This is like so subdued. I guess it's
It
like,
is
are
because
you?
no, we're so well. It's also like it's old news to
Yeah,
me. It's
yeah,
I've known
yeah.
for many weeks at this point, and it's also as an IVF mom, there's it's not just excitement. Like there's excitement, there's anxiety, there's nerves, there's we're cautiously optimistic, and there's something about just I we've never been able to have a baby naturally. So as much as I love my body and trust my body to be able to do this, I know that my body, whatever something is happening that we haven't been able to identify that makes it
Yeah.
so my body isn't able to naturally get pregnant and keep a pregnancy and go
You
to
have
full
Mount,
term
you
with
have
a.
your uterus is Mount Everest. I think we've come to
I
realize
think
it's
that's the
Mount
only
Everest.
explanation I
They have
have.
to they have to climb up
There's
this
no
mountain
because
that is.
they can't get up the hill, or there's like some sort of U-turn in there, or they can't make it. But and we joke about this because as going through IVF, our story is very unique in that Spencer and I's IVF story is so incredibly hopeful. We were diagnosed with unexplained infertility in 2019 after our first miscarriage and a little over a year of trying naturally. And we did all the things. We did the Ava bracelet, we did the ovulation sticks, we did all the tracking things. We literally tried everything and then decided we wanted to explore different treatments and tests and make sure all the parts are working. So we did all the tests, all of our parts are working, and we got the fantastic diagnosis of unexplained infertility.
Hmm.
And the way our insurance at the time was set up, it made sense for us. The infertility coverage with our insurance at the time essentially had just a sum of money that we could put towards infertility. Some insurances say you have to try this first before you can do this. Some say
Hmm.
here's this amount of
Right.
money, do whatever you want with it. So ours was the latter. So we skipped IUI, we skipped the other kind of preliminary steps and went straight to IVF. We were like, look, if we are going to do this, we want the thing that's going to be as successful as possible. We went straight to IVF and we did a retrieval in 2020 and got 34 eggs, which is why I say we have had a very unique experience with IVF. We did one retrieval, got 34 eggs. Through the process of freezing, testing,
Mm.
fertilizing, we ended up with 21 eggs fertilized that we were able to send off for pre-genetic testing, which is so many embryos. So many embryos. So the entire time that we've been through this journey of infertility, we're we haven't been able to get pregnant naturally. We continue to have unprotected sex. I've never been on birth control. I've never done anything. We continue to try, but we've
Yeah.
always had
Yeah.
hope because our retrieval resulted in 21 embryos that we were able to send
Hmm.
off for testing.
Hmm.
And each one of
Hmm.
those is a chance for us to have a
Like you have
baby.
21
So we have
viable
a very
embryos.
unique infertility
Yeah.
experience in that. So we sent them off for testing, and of the 21, 7 came back as useless. We called them duds. They were duds. They were not gonna result in a viable pregnancy. They were not confident in those. 14 embryos, viable embryos. Of those 14, I believe, I want to say 8 or 10 were euploid, which if you are in the IVF world, you know what that word means. If you're not, it means the best possible hope that you can find in an embryo. And we can get into the minutia of all of that. They grade it even further. There's like letter gradings within each of the embryo categories of, A, B. There's also how many days they aged and all of those things. So we, for the entire process of our infertility journey, have always had so much hope, which is not something a lot of people have, which is why when you hear me talk about it, I'm so excited for us. But I also
Mm-hmm.
know I'm sad for people who don't have this experience. My heart breaks for people who have lost transfers, who have embryos that didn't make it, who got nothing from their retrievals, who, and I was talking to my husband about this. To me, there's so much of it it makes as much sense as me having brown eyes. There's nothing I did differently than other people have done during my retrieval that resulted
Mm-hmm.
in those numbers. It's just the way it is. I mean, you've been through
Yeah.
this process as well, and your results were
Yeah.
very different than mine.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's amazing, and
It's a miracle.
congratulations. I mean, again,
Thank
this
you.
is kind of, this is old news to me. This is old news to me, but it's
Yeah,
fun
you
that we're
knew.
able to
You're
kind
in
of,
the circle. You're in the trust tree.
yeah, but to finally share it, which is awesome. And I think that, I mean, as you were talking, like the thing that like stood out to me is that number, that oh, I 34, like I retrieved 34 eggs, and just how you just need one, like just you just need one.
All
And
it
I
takes
bring
is
that up
one.
because in my conversations with so many of other girlfriends who are going through IVF or have gone through IVF, we're so obsessed with this number. And I'm actually not even remotely sensitive to that at all. Like, I don't care. But like, everyone is always asking, well, how many eggs did you get? Or what were your numbers? And I think there's a scientific and medical fact of like, you want to have a good, if you're going through IVF, you have to do an egg retrieval. You want to make sure you have a good egg reserve. And so
Hmm.
that is a number that you should care about.
Well,
Um,
statistically, it gives you
yeah.
my situation. I have hope. I
Yes.
have hope.
Yes.
Anytime we do a transfer, I'm like, this could stick, but if it doesn't, there are 11 more embryos in the freezer. That
Yeah.
there are opportunities, which so many people don't have. And I'm very, very aware of that. And we are
So
very grateful.
how many do you have left if you're open to sharing? So this is your third
We are,
transfer.
yep, we have done 3 transfers and all 3 of them have stuck. 2 of them are giving me the space right now to actually do this and playing on the beach. And one's brewing in there. We have 11 left, 11 viable, already tested embryos.
Which is just, I mean, that is just staggering.
It
And
is.
then it gets into the other question. I know we've talked about this, which is deeper, is like, what do you do with them if you aren't, I mean, again, I don't know if we even want to get into that, but like,
Well, but that and also the question, the joke you were making earlier when we were talking, then why, if our numbers are that staggering, why can't we get pregnant naturally? Our parts obviously
yeah,
work. His things fertilize my
that's
things very well. Like why?
you have a Mount
There's a
Everest
corkscrew.
universe.
There's
There's a corkscrew curve in the
there's
road where the
something.
sperm cannot get to where they need to be. So that's literally the best and most fun explanation I can give
There's
you.
it's the most fun, yeah, and it's the only thing that logically makes sense to me because we have continued trying. It's not like we stopped trying, and we have in our journey we got pregnant naturally once more 2023,
Oh
and
yeah.
that resulted in a miscarriage after just 6 weeks as well. So we've gotten pregnant naturally
But why don't
twice.
you
Both of those resulted in miscarriage.
share your theory on how you got pregnant naturally in between?
That's right. The last time in 2023, I think it's because we were vegetarian for a month. It's the only time
Yeah.
I've ever been vegetarian in my life. And I
Yeah.
had this big revelation recently. I went to a new GP who was asking me about my story, my whole background, all everything, asked me if I breastfed the kids just to get the full medical history,
Mm-hmm.
and told me, and I didn't realize this, that you have to be careful of soy based formulas because soy impacts hormones so much that if you're giving babies soy based formula, there's studies and research that show it significantly impacts them and their hormones as they're growing.
Yeah.
And so, based on that, I decided that because we were eating so much soy in that 1 month period, we were eating tons of tofu, tons of edamame, just no meats and not stuff that we normally eat. It affected my hormones in a way that we got pregnant naturally. Or we tried a different
Interesting.
position
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the swimmers made it, around the corkscrew. Who knows? Who
The
knows?
soy was giving them some, working on their muscles. They got over
But it still
Everest
didn't
into the
stick.
corkscrew.
Didn't
Yeah.
stick. We are
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
get pregnant via IVF. It is how it goes.
Yeah.
So, and we're very,
It's
very excited
amazing.
about it. But the news does come with the awareness of I know what it feels like to see so many other people's pregnancy announcements and it as much therapy as you're in or as self-aware as you are, there's always going to be a twinge of why is my story
Yeah.
different? Why not
Yeah.
mine? Why not that my
I get
embryos?
that.
Why not my retrieval? And we even, you and I, we tried to record
Yeah.
this. I tried to make the announcement a couple weeks ago on an episode, and afterwards I was like, we got to edit it out. It didn't feel right. I wasn't.
I can't hear you anymore. Can you hear me? Maybe you touched something. There you are. Maybe?
Okay, am I back now?
Here you're back. We'll continue on a new track. Heads up. Stephanie's recording will continue on a new track. We started a new recording for Stephanie due to a change in their device. I still can't hear you. What the hell's going
All right,
on?
now I'm unmuted. Am I back?
There you are. Yeah,
Okay.
there you are.
My we're
Okay.
vacation recording, so we'll get back on track. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
we're
no.
very excited. But just
No,
as
it's
someone
it's
who
amazing.
it's just I you're we and we've touched on this. We're in the infertility club in that we are not people who get pregnant naturally. You are someone in the I don't need to tell your story, but you have secondary infertility that you are working on, and you can talk about that hopefully
Yep.
because I think your story is different. But I understand that my story is not very relatable. Hopefully, it is just a different example for people of what IVF looks like and gives people hope because that's something that we have so much of. But yeah, I think, the question you mentioned as well, there's no way I'm having 11 more babies. I can't do that. I'm 40 right now. So now, once we decide that our family journey is done, what does that look like? And for me, there's always been,
Yeah.
because I've in this, giving other people hope and giving other families hope and giving them some embryos that have already been tested and are viable, but we're not there yet. So I don't know. We'll have that conversation.
It's such a yeah, it's everyone has a different journey. And I mean, I got pregnant with Max fairly easy, spontaneously, naturally. And then it wasn't until COVID, so Max was maybe 2, that we started thinking about having like a second and didn't think anything of it. And in hindsight, there's all these like shoulda, woulda, couldas. And we what I tell myself is, oh, we should have probably started to have a second sooner or earlier, or been a little bit more diligent and serious about trying, just, trying more regularly and being more, honestly, like just, it's a job. Like, and it's not arguably like it's not a fun job, especially when you get kind of to the later phases. Sorry, but it's not. And anyone
Mm-mm.
who's gone through that knows that. Um, but I also wasn't in a place in the middle of COVID to be feeling like I wanted to procreate. Like I wasn't mentally there. And so it's easy
Especially
to
with a
look back
kid
and
in the
say,
house already.
yeah, it just everything about it, just the timing wasn't right. So I wasn't physically ready, I wasn't mentally ready. And then once, we started to try again and I was like, it was taking a lot longer. I was like, geez, okay, should we look into, fertility? And I went to a clinic upstate in the Hudson Valley area. Did not have a good experience with that fertility clinic in hindsight, but I did a first egg retrieval through this fertility clinic. If anyone want, I'm not gonna like bash on them publicly, but happy to share
I'll name
all
good
the
names. NYU
yeah,
Dr. Fino, highly recommend. So if you there's a
go for it.
recommendation for you.
Yeah, your experience with NYU sounds dreamy. Like, but at one point, this experience with this clinic I was working at was so poor that I was emailing and texting you, and you were sending me
Hmm.
support materials from
I was sending you all the
NYU.
NYU materials because you didn't get any information. It was awful.
It, but it's also, I feel like you also do have a unbelievably unrelatable experience in a good way, meaning you've had such a positive, I'll use the word
Hmm.
positive experience in terms of
Hopeful.
open
I had a hopeful
communication,
experience. Ugh.
hopeful experience, like positive
Yeah.
communication, resources. And so many other women that I talk to have felt completely lost like me in terms of what kind of medication do I get? And it's so obvious. You think that the doctors are going to like lay this out for you. Like I'm a marketer. I'm like type A. It's like, give me a checklist. Like I got the most bogus piecemeal pieces of info
Uh-uh.
and text that I had to piece together a schedule for myself. I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
So it's
And
like
it's
you
so
add,
difficult.
yeah. So
It's
it's
so
like you
much.
add that stress on top of the entire process. And so I had an egg retrieval, had got 2 good, embryos out of it, and then transferred one. Didn't stick. It was kind of similar to again what you went through. It was a subchorionic hemorrhage, which is a big blood clot, which basically
Didn't even
wipes
tell
out the
that story.
embryo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, basically wipes the embryo out. And then took some time off, got pregnant naturally, and I was like convinced that that was the one that was going to stick because I'm like I knew what my body was going to do. and I felt really good, and I felt like almost too good. Like I didn't feel pregnant, you know. I
Yeah.
felt like the signs were telling me I was pregnant, but I'm like, it's not growing as quickly as you'd want, but they said that's okay. And then I don't know, I felt too good. And I remember me and you went to Renaissance tour, Beyonce, and the next morning I was at your house. I remember I went to Dick's, Dick's,
Of
Dick's
course.
outlet, of course,
Naturally.
shopping for stuff because I was going on a cruise to Alaska, and I started to bleed. I'm like, fuck, I know what this
Yeah.
is, and this is
Yeah.
not normal. And then that started everything. And then that night I have a emergency DNC, which was fun. I drove myself to a hospital. Craig stayed back with Max, drove myself to a hospital, bled through our car seats, towels, went into an emergency room. I always remember that now. Like, and good thing I brought extra pants because I was just bleeding everywhere and they had
Soaked.
no bed
Yeah.
to put me in, and so I had to go into a bath. It was a blood scene. It was a blood scene.
Yeah.
So I had to have that. So it's been, again, long roundabout way, but it's been a process. But I share this because these are all the experiences that we go through in terms of kids. So then I switched fertility doctors, and I'm at RMA, which I'm happy to share because it's a big one. And I go to one in Mount Kisco up in Westchester, up in upstate New York, or not upstate, Hudson Valley, I guess. And my experience there has been like fine, but it's like a cattle call. It's fine. It's like good communication, but you don't feel taken care of by your doctors. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't. And it's like
Yeah.
I don't have a high expectation of care. I just want like some sort of answers. And this is also fresh and hot off the press because the day is Monday, July 7th, and literally before we recorded this, I just had a follow-up conversation with my doctor exploring like what could a path look like, and if I was to do another retrieval and transfer, and we don't have to get into all the specifics there, but it's this weird phase. To be honest, I don't know how badly I really do want a second. I
Yeah.
think if I was in a different type of position, I don't know, I would say like career wise, I wouldn't be really thinking about it, but because I feel like I have the openness and space, I'm open to it.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a very, I don't know. I don't really know how to think about it. The farther and farther away I get from having a second, the harder it is for me to imagine life with a second because I can't wrap my head around going back into like newborn phase or toddler phase, and like that's
What
it.
is
It's just
it
like the,
that's drawing you to even open the door and have these conversations?
well, originally a couple of months ago, I felt mm, it wasn't wronged, but I I viewed it as like a competitive sport. And like, you tell me I can't get pregnant, I'm going to show you I'm going to get
Yeah. Yeah.
pregnant.
Yeah.
Or, um, all the odds are against me, I'll show you. I'm going to strategize. I'm going to do whatever I can in my power to get the answers, see the doctors, and I'm going to make this into gamify it. And that sounds so terrible. It's not gamifying it, but I also, with my last transfer, which was in February of this year, February of 25, which didn't work, natural cycle didn't work for, again, a variety of reasons. I had the worst, some of the most, like, I had no point of view or reaction or response from my doctor. She literally, like, voice texted me, and it had, like, spelling errors, being like, yeah, you're not pregnant. I was like, well, no shit, I'm not pregnant. I got my period 2 days after the transfer. Can you
Yeah.
give me some more information as to, like, maybe why that didn't happen?
Yeah.
So I think I honestly was like, I had a lot of anger, and
Yeah. Of
I'm
course.
just in my process. Yeah, in my process and journey right now. I'm in the fact finding. I want to get all of the information I can. So I talked to my old doctor at RMA to get her point of view on how we would proceed if we were to do anything. And I'm also going to meet with NYU, your doctors,
Yeah.
not Pheno, but another doctor at NYU to
No.
compare, okay, given my history and, you know, good health and all these things, how would you proceed with another
Yeah.
transfer, or sorry, another retrieval and transfer?
Which
So
is
it's
worth
just
a
like I
conversation.
just like I yeah, I want answer. I'm not going to get an answer. I just want an assessment or a thoughtful point of view on everything,
Yeah. And if
and
you
then
hear
I'll make a
something that
decision.
makes sense to you, then you'll get some clarity.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah,
Hopefully.
hopefully.
I also think it's so interesting that we've obviously been friends through both of our IVF everythings. And I've found it so interesting, and I find this with conversations with other friends who are going through IVF and infertility, how differently retrievals and transfers and cycles are
Hmm.
clinic to clinic. And you understand, every body is different, every pregnancy is different. But in my head, and I think this is part of the reason that I personally am always so vocal about IVF, because I was so clueless when I started. I had no idea anything about IVF. And we were very, very lucky to be working with NYU, who gave us so much information. But even with all that information, my husband still had spreadsheets with all of the medications, which pharmacies to get which ones, pricing everything out, how to do it, when everything had to be, all of it. Like, it is so much work. And hats off to the women who go through this without partners, who are creating the spreadsheets for them and have to do all that mental load themselves. But I think comparing what happens and realizing and just even learning about IVF as you're in the throes of it, as you're in the process. I mean, you had to do medications during your transfers and retrieval that I had none of, but
Hmm. Hmm.
I know other friends who also had to be on the same medications as you that I wasn't on. And
Hmm.
just the way different clinics approach things, where again, it's great that you're asking questions, because maybe one way versus a different way would be more effective for you based on who you are as a
Yeah, but
patient, as an
it's so
individual.
hard because like I don't know what I don't know. And so it's just so
100%.
frustrating to put like, and I get it, you need to advocate for your own health, you need to advocate for, your own being, but I mean, the types of information that I get are from like my friends who have also experienced this. Like
Comparing
I,
notes.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
because you can just drive yourself insane going down rabbit holes of community or YouTube or Reddit and all these forums and the fact that I didn't know there was an option for a natural cycle, like how is that not a
The fact that I
conversation that,
didn't, and then I just did one. I had no idea until they told
and
me.
so natural cycle for anyone who listens or is even caring is when you basically transfer the embryo unmedicated. It's basically more or
Let your
less
trust your
unmedicated.
body's hormones, as opposed to
Yes.
the traditional IVF that everyone thinks of, which is shots, giving yourself shots all the time, putting progesterone oil, which is the one where you
Yeah.
shoot it into your muscle and it hurts so much. Natural cycle is the opposite of that. You just
And there's a
trust your
lot
body's
of,
hormones.
yeah, and like I remember I brought it up to my doctor. It was last October. I'll always remember it was like on Halloween. And I was talking to her in my car, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you know what? That would be a great option for you, especially considering you had such a negative, physical response to the medicated cycle that you did." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? I've been telling
Yeah.
you all about my challenges with all the other
Since
meds
before
for the
you even
past two
started, you
years."
knew that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how is that not part of the conversation? And,
And the only
you
reason
know,
that we knew about that is because my doctor said she wanted to try that with me. And I was like, what does that even mean? I didn't know it was an option either. And we should know.
Yeah, but then again, like I have another friend up here who's going through her first IVF cycle with her partner, and natural was just always part of the dialogue from day one with her doctor. And I think she's at NYU too. So I think it's just
Interesting.
also, it's like not even just based on the clinic, it's about, I don't know, maybe it's the doctor or, so
I
that's
don't
what I
know.
mean. It's just like you have
All I
no
know is my
idea. And
experience.
like,
Yeah.
and that's the most frustrating thing. And it worked swimmingly for you.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
so
and even like
the
the egg freezing thing, like I wonder.
go ahead.
No,
No,
go
no, no.
ahead.
I want to hear about egg freezing. I think we're on a
No, I was just
delay
gonna
because
say that.
we're
I was just gonna say that. It's like an impactful conversation that's gonna be so choppy. Well, I'm sure this will edit out, whatever. But I was gonna say the egg freezing piece. I was thinking about how I've been loving all of the current conversations and like how it's just part of the conversation now with healthcare. If you are, you have the ability to actually freeze eggs as you're younger, despite having that be so prevalent now and having that be more, talked about, I don't know if I would have proactively even been in the mind space to do that earlier because I think I would have been like, oh, I won't need it. I would have had this like ego about it or something, which is
agreed.
stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you never think that you're gonna need IVF. You're never gonna think that you're gonna have. I think about like, just think about like, I mean, it's like all the times that you're just trying not to get pregnant. It's just like insane.
Yeah. And you don't even realize that you have unexplained infertility or a corkscrew uterus. Who knows
Yeah.
what it is? Yeah, I think the so you mentioned that you had a subchorionic hematoma. I had that with my second transfer, my son, who is now 2. And that essentially means, the way I explain it and the way I had to rationalize it so that I could understand it, is that I had two Fabergé eggs in my uterus. I had one that was a big, massive blood clot and one that was my baby trying to grow, and they were competing for space. And so I had to take very, very, wasn't full bed rest, probably was told to be, I don't actually remember, um, but was very, very just taking it easy, would maybe walk the dog. That was the extent of my physical activity. I wasn't working out, I wasn't doing anything. And I was actively bleeding until 20 weeks when they would monitor me on a weekly basis just to keep an eye on the hematoma and hope that the baby grew big enough to push the hematoma out, or hope that the hematoma would just get absorbed back in. And you had the same thing, and yours obviously didn't go the way mine went. And it was a weird situation because I had had a miscarriage before. And obviously, anytime you're bleeding in pregnancy, you're concerned that it's not something that's fun. That's very, very disconcerting. But because I'd had a miscarriage before, the whole time I was bleeding, I had a strange kind of weird awareness of, that's not what this feels like. I know what a miscarriage feels like. This doesn't feel like that. So I was still, again, very hopeful. So thanks to my miscarriage for giving me that hope. But that's why on this transfer, my doctor said that I honestly, I went into this pregnancy assuming that this would happen again, that I have a subchorionic hematoma, because I was told it is most common in women over the age of 35, women doing frozen embryo transfers, and women in subsequent pregnancies. So if it's your second, third, fourth, however many pregnancies, the trifecta. I hit all of those, and they said, because you've already had a hematoma, you will most likely have one for every future pregnancy. So because that was kind of on the table, my doctor, Dr. Fino, wanted to try a natural cycle to see if that might affect whether or not there was a hematoma. And I don't know if that's the reason that there is no hematoma, but there is no hematoma with this transfer. Baby's doing great in there, thriving. And that's where the natural cycle theory came from for us, that I had no idea about it. And I've been doing IVF since 2020 until 2025. It's the only time I found out about it. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, you never know.
I'm
Yeah,
thankful for it.
yeah,
Thank
it
goodness.
just, yeah,
I do
it's
not
amazing.
miss bleeding for 20 weeks. That was not fun.
Yeah, I can't, yeah, the bed resting and just it's
But they're
hard.
super
And
common. So many women who do IVF and frozen embryo transfers experience this, and I didn't realize how common it was. And it's not exclusive to, IVF, and it happens in
yeah,
natural pregnancies as well. But just and we have said this before, and I will say it every day on every episode to anyone who doesn't ask: getting pregnant, however you do it, is a miracle. Miracle.
yes,
Getting pregnant in and of itself,
totally.
and then having a baby, actually carrying it full term, is a miracle. It is
Yeah.
mind blowing that my body is 3D
Mm-hmm.
printing a human
Mm-hmm.
right now. We are sitting here recording a podcast, and there's a tiny human growing inside of me.
Yeah,
Like, it
it's
does not make
incredible.
sense to me. It's it's insane.
It's
It's
wild.
absolutely
It's wild.
extraordinary. And there's women all over the world every single day doing this. It's crazy. Women are fucking phenomenal.
There
Insane.
is a organization called We Conceive that I am not a part of, nor have I paid to be part of the community. But it's a paid community, but it's a community of support with nurses and doctors for women trying to conceive. I think via, yeah, IVF and any other, but I think they also go into surrogacy. They go into other, I don't know about adoption, but it's mostly for different like IVF and like surrogacy support. But I just wanted to call that out and even like share it because just even based on them sharing on social, like, and I wonder if like I would have benefited from those resources. I guess that's also maybe my reflection is it's like you don't know what you don't know. And so having a very trusted group or community, because like I had you, and I had a couple other people, like, maybe one other person. But if I didn't have you to kind of bounce things off of, or I would have been, I felt so much more alone, or would not have
Yeah.
known where to go to for trusted information. I was asking some friends who like hadn't done IVF in like 6 years. Like, God, I don't remember the protocol. And when you're
Yeah.
going through it, it's so fresh. And so I've started to see a couple of other communities like that pop up, which are lovely and helpful. But yeah, I don't, this it's a struggle, and I don't know. I'm at a point right now where, I mean, I hate to even like, put numbers on it, but I don't quite know how I feel about having a second. I'm still very much on the fence. I would have loved to have had a second 3 years ago. I would
Yeah.
have loved to have a second 2 years ago. But
Yeah.
the more and more that time goes on and Max is 6, I get farther and farther away from. I just get it. Just you just like that gap widens, and I try to imagine our life with another one. And could we do it? Sure. Like, would I want one? I don't. I don't know. I can't say wholeheartedly like our family is not complete without a second kid. I can't say
Yeah.
that because our family feels
It's
pretty
amazing to
complete.
be able to even like
Um,
verbalize that though. That's that to be able to say, I don't know. There's a part of you that does want more, and there's a part of you that doesn't. And those are big, it's a big toss up.
because I feel like I don't know, and this is probably an old school way of thinking about things, but I feel like people always say you'll never regret having a kid. I'm like, but really, is that true? I don't know. Like, of course, if I had a second, I would never like regret it. I just know that at this phase in my life, it would just definitely alter some things. I don't know. I don't even know what that means, but yeah. I'm in a very, this is a very live there. We're in our therapy chat,
We're
but this is a very
processing it right
live.
now.
I'm literally processing this as we speak because again, it's very fresh because I just got off a very real conversation with my doctor who actually gave me some good protocol and advice in terms of how she would support and strategize another transfer.
Okay.
And then, or sorry, another retrieval, and then how she
Yep.
would look at the transfer, which is interesting because the other variable is that the embryo I transferred with RMA came from my old clinic. So
Yeah.
that's a
So you've
thing
never
where we
actually
have to
done a
like,
retrieval with RMA.
I did a retrieval with RMA and I had 0 eggs. I did
Oh,
one
you,
in
oh my
spring of
gosh.
24 because it
Yes.
was also like, there was
I
never
completely forgot.
24, 23.
20,
No, 24.
no,
Yeah, it was
24,
it was
24.
last it
Yeah.
was last spring of 24. It was around Easter. And going into that retrieval, not having any viable embryos was not even an option. And like I knew that like maybe they might be low, but I remember I got the call from her on her way to the airport because we are going to Mexico for spring break, and she's like, "I'm sorry, but yeah, none of your embryos were genetically viable." And I was like, "What? Really? Oh my God. Okay." And that was a real mind fuck because I'm like, "Wow, maybe like what did that actually made me feel like, okay, is it my age? Maybe. What have I, then I
Yeah.
started putting pressure on myself, like, what have I been doing differently in the past year that has a
It's
negative
such a
health
spiral.
impact?
Yeah.
Like, is it
Yeah.
like I'm on all the vitamins and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Is it a
which
new
I'm
supplement?
fine.
Is it my workout routine? Is
I
it
don't know.
like,
I'm
what
like,
am
oh
I
my
doing
gosh, am
different?
I like drinking too much? I like really
Yeah.
question and like, no, you are
It's not,
complete.
yeah.
It's the
It's
odds. It's
nothing.
just,
It's nothing. Yeah.
so I have done an egg retrieval. And so
I
when I
completely
did
forgot about that. Yeah.
my Hail Mary was a embryo from my last doctor that they have transfer over, and it's a big thing, and they have to
Mm-hmm.
they have to rethaw it, and clinics don't like taking frozen embryos from other clinics
No.
because it's not the same protocol. It's like a big thing. So I've gone.
Mm-mm.
It's a thing. Um, so we'll see. I'm going to do another consultation with NYU and your doctor just to kind of compare and contrast and see what they would say. And then I don't know. I'll make a decision. We'll see. We'll see what's up. Um, I mean, I don't want to be like, oh, you never. It's never a financial decision because you figure it out. You always figure it out. But
You do. You absolutely figure
I
it
don't
out.
mind the egg retrieval. I could probably do a retrieval and just see what happens. And if that feels kind of low stakes, because it's like, well, you can't do anything
Yeah.
unless you get a retrieval anyway. So
Yeah. See what you're
I
working
don't know.
with from
We'll
there.
see.
It's also, and that's another thing I keep thinking about, that it, you don't want to be someone focusing on your biological clock, but you have to think about that. You have to think about, I even, visiting family, and they were joking and asking if we were going to do a fourth. And I was like, right, first of all, like, let's get through this third and make sure we have a full term pregnancy and meet this kid before we start planning more. And then I was like, by then I'll be 41, maybe probably 42 before my period comes back again. And then I can even consider doing another transfer. And I'm like, those are things that I actually have to think about. I have to think about that. And again, we are in a very unique, hopeful position where even if I do decide to do
Hmm.
that, we are transferring 35-year-old embryos. So my embryos
Mm-hmm.
are younger and more sprightly than I am. It's just a matter of whether or not my uterus would welcome them. Again, I am so focused on what's happening in my body right now that I can't even think about that. But you do have to think about your biological clock. You inevitably do. I don't know what that looks like nowadays. The fact that every single one of my pregnancies has been geriatric, which is just 35 plus, is baffling to me. I don't fully understand how they get to that number and what that looks like, but being pregnant at 40 even does feel like I'm in great shape. I take good care of
Mm-hmm.
myself. I feel great. I've been more tired, and I don't know if that's because I'm 40 or because there are two other kids who need my attention that weren't there during my previous pregnancies. But I'm 40 and I'm pregnant, and that's something that mentally is never something I imagined. That was never part of my plan. That was not a thing. That was not part of I grew up in the South. I was married by 25, kids by 28. That didn't happen. That was not at all how it panned out. So it just, it's one of those things that you try to be, a strong, powerful female,
Mm-hmm.
independent. I
Mm-hmm.
can do anything. I
Mm-hmm.
can achieve what I want. But
Mm-hmm.
then also, biology is real. Science is real.
Yeah. But it's also, just even going through the amount of time and energy and mental toll all of it takes. Like you just think about
And
how
financial. I
many
know it's not
times during
something
a
that
week.
is a
Yes.
big concern for you, but it's a financial toll for a
Yes.
lot of people as well.
Yes. No, I mean, of course that's a consideration, but I was just thinking more of the just the driving to get your blood tests every day and the time, like the time and energy that it takes just even to kind of go through that on top of a full-time job, managing a household, having additional kids. And that's something else I was even thinking about was just like, do I have the capacity to do that again? Because, the clinic I'd even go to is 90 minutes one way. I mean, you can't put a price or a time on like finding good health. And if I went to NYU, I actually don't even know what that would look like. But again, we'll cross the bridge when we get there.
But I mean, I was doing that. We started our infertility process and IVF and retrieval and all that with NYU when we were living in the city, and it made so much sense. We were walking from our apartment to the appointments and to morning monitoring and to blood work. And then we moved out to New Jersey where it's either an hour plus drive because you're going during peak hours, or you're driving to the train and then taking an hour and a half train into the city so you don't have to worry about dealing with traffic and driving.
Yeah.
And the blood appointments are every morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So you're going during rush hour, you're going earlier in the morning. And I was crying in the morning this time because the natural cycle, they have to monitor you even more frequently. So I had to go 4 days in a row, and I was exhausted, and I kept having to remind myself, if this works, it's worth it. It's okay. But it's even then, it's still exhausting. It's
Yeah.
exhausting, and it's so much work.
So
And
are you
it's
done? Do you go to your OB now? When do you
I
leave?
I was promoted to my OB. Yeah, I was promoted to my
Okay.
OB, and I've since been seeing my OB, and actually changed to a different OB because my OB had some
Oh yeah.
staff
She's
personnel
commenting
changes.
down
So
your she thought you were too tall. She kept commenting down your height, and you're like, what is
that's,
wrong with you,
yeah, that's, well,
Candace?
that's my new one, but it's a practice of all women,
Oh,
and
oh,
so this is
okay.
just one of many doctors, but
Okay.
we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see. Maybe she'll be the one that
So how
delivers
many
this
how
baby.
many weeks are you now? Are you 12?
16 weeks.
16.
Hmm.
Oh my God. I mean, that's
16
pretty
weeks.
legit. Okay.
It is. It is. And you know what? And there's also, I remember, there's such a hesitation in telling people because then you're like, oh, then I have to tell people if it doesn't stick, if it doesn't work out. And then there's such this, I am now at the point where I'm like, I'm happy to tell people, I'm happy to talk about it because it's not going to be my fault if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's just part of the process. And I would be heartbroken, obviously. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to lean
Mm-hmm.
on all of the
Mm-hmm.
people that know necessarily. But it, I
Yeah.
think that being able to openly talk about loss, miscarriage, infertility, the the struggles of all of it, and the good parts. I mean, being able to
Mm-hmm.
celebrate all of it and have so much
Mm-hmm.
hope needs to be normalized. Needs to be
I
normalized.
think the thing that just really the thing that really got me for a while was after my first failed IVF transfer with my clinic upstate, got pregnant naturally like 2 months later, which is I think is actually quite common I hear, is because like your
Yeah.
body's primed for it, your hormones are good.
Yeah.
And even though like I didn't feel it's just like in my even though I think there was a little bit of a voice that was telling me you feel really good, but just like embrace it. Like don't worry about it. Your body knows what it's doing. I still in my gut, I really did believe that this was going to work out. I really thought that that pregnancy was like, see, you didn't need to do IVF. Your body knew what it was doing. You feel great. This is the timing. You just had to go through that hurdle to get here, and then it doesn't work out, and you're like, it it almost like it made me question like my intuition. It made me question my gut. It made me question my ability to read a situation that's my body. So it was like a
Yeah.
mind fuck like that, where it was just like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to believe anymore if I truly in my heart and my gut believed that this was
Yeah.
happening and I felt good and I was at, was in Portugal. Everything about it I felt like really good. And then out of nowhere it
That's so
happens.
real.
And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
well, you know what I mean? And so I think that's
Yeah.
also this whole process of, do you share, do you not share? At what point and do you reveal that you are pregnant and you're not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Everyone has different takes and experiences, but it's just a sucky, I don't know. Miscarrying is a sucky feeling. Either way, whether you're in a topic pregnancy or it's a
Yeah.
couple of weeks or it's chemical or I mean, that's actually a bad
Or you're
metaphor and I don't
super
want to
far along
compare
and
and or
something
just or
goes
like
wrong.
scale
I
it.
mean,
Yeah, because like yeah, I mean they're all horrible in their own rights.
yeah,
I
loss
can't.
is
There's no.
loss. It's
That's not meant to be
horrible.
compare anything. Yeah, yeah.
No, 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 no.
Um,
It's so much, but that's so real. You start to not trust yourself, and it's so gutting where you're like, what am I supposed to do? How do I move forward from this? How do I are my career decisions that I'm making correct? Are
yeah,
the other parenting decisions that I are am when I'm talking to my partner, how do I even know, what's going on? It's just so it's difficult. And even now, I'm 16 weeks and I have both of my IVF pregnancies have resulted in full-term pregnancies, no issues aside from the hematoma. And I have no reason not to trust my body. But I am so anxious. I'm so much more anxious this pregnancy
mm-hmm,
than I ever
mm-hmm.
have been. I have a fetal Doppler radar that I got so I can check the heartbeat at home. And I keep telling
Mm.
people it's so that the kids can hear it. And they love hearing it. The first time we did it, the kids, I was like, "You want to listen to your brother?" And I put it up and they heard his heartbeat. And oh, it's a boy. I guess that's cat out of the bag. I put the monitor up and they heard his heartbeat. And my 4-year-old goes, "I don't hear him talking. Is he talking?" Like they thought he was going to be talking to them. It was really sweet. But I check it every other day for
Cute.
myself when my kids are at school. They're
Yeah,
not even home because I want to
yeah,
make sure. It's months between appointments, not months. That was dramatic. Like 4 weeks between appointments. I anything could happen in 4 weeks. I have no idea. And you keep just all you suddenly see is stories of loss and then this many weeks and this happened and this unexpected thing and all it and it's just
yeah.
impossible to avoid those stories. So I have no reason not to trust my body, but I don't right now. I still question it and I love it and I'm so proud of it, but I still question what's happening and I have no reason to be this anxious, but it's just part of the process. Like once you've had loss, especially, you don't trust. I remember after my first pregnancy, the natural pregnancy, I miscarried at 6 weeks and one day, which is so, so super early. I mean, I was barely pregnant, but it's your first pregnancy. I was so excited. We had already told family. We just were so excited to share. And then with IVF, I was literally counting down to 6 weeks and one day because IVF, you find out a lot earlier. You're able to
Mm,
test sooner.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I was counting down to
mm-hmm,
6 weeks
mm-hmm.
and one day. I was like, I'm not until then am I gonna let myself breathe a sigh of relief. And then it's you set the next thing, all right, not until the second trimester, and then not until whatever it is, not until I start feeling kicks or it's just it's a miracle to be pregnant
Do
and
you
to have
have
babies.
a arsenal of names? Obviously, not expecting
We
you to
have
share
some
any,
we
but do you
have
have a?
some leftovers that we went through because we had
Yeah,
names
just give them a
collected.
leftover.
Yeah, we
Just
have
give
some
this group
leftovers. We're
just give
just
them
gonna give them the
leftover.
scraps. Give them the scraps. No, because we've had names, running lists of names for all of our kids, but I gotta meet them first. I gotta meet him. I gotta see like what if he comes out with like a
I
full
wonder, is it going to
mustache?
be
Then I gotta name him.
like like Emerson,
S-O-N? No.
Harrison, or like a
We
son,
didn't
like
do that
a
intentionally. And we even thought about that when we were naming Harry, whose name is Harrison. We were like, oh, are we creating a pattern for ourselves? Do we have to like go full Kardashian now because it's Emerson and Harrison? But no, we feel very comfortable not continuing that pattern or doing it if it makes sense.
it's like Emerson, Harry, no, Emerson, Harrison, and Joe,
Yeah.
or like Bob,
Just
Stu and
some
Bob,
that's like my niece and nephew who have like super Southern names. And then it's Grayson, Peyton, and then Anna. Anna.
and then
It's
Anna.
the best. I love it. Just a
Oh,
little Anna.
baby Anna. Well,
Yeah.
I'm very excited for you. I think it's
Thank you.
amazing.
We're excited.
I'm so excited now we can talk about it, and
Yeah, now
yeah,
everyone
it's a
knows if I
journey
start getting super
and it's
winded
amazing.
and run out of breath because I'm telling a long story, it's because I have zero lung capacity now. My husband was making fun of me. He listening back to previous episodes where he's like, "You have to take a break. You cannot tell the same stories and speak at the same speed. You do not have the same lung capacity." Whoops.
Amazing. Well,
Shit happens,
congrats for
baby
that
coming.
run. Yeah, a different kind of a sippy cup happens.
It's also why we have been focused on motherhood and midlife and not a lot of martinis. We'll get some
But you know
martinis back
what?
in there.
The fun thing is we're gonna have we have a slate of summer guests who are coming on,
Mm-hmm.
and I will absolutely be having a martini, a Bloody Mary, or a mocktail with some of them. So we'll be bringing the summer sip vibes.
Yep.
I'll handle it for both of us.
Some on the same vein, some similar topics, just experts in their own field who have interesting things to talk about that we are so hungry to hear about and can't wait. So thank you as always for being here. If you listen to all this, if you have questions about our infertility, about IVF, about anything, we'll do our best or point you in the direction of someone who knows better.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
See you next week.
Congrats. Bye.
Thanks.